we had the King of Greece in, and he wanted his umbrella engraved with a crown with a K on it. And my wife said, "Isn't that a bit naff to have K for king?" And I said, "No, sweetheart, in Greek it's Constantine and it's a K in Greek." My grandfather was too naughty to be in Holland. He was called Naughty Peter de Bruni. And he was supposed to be a medical student, but he got in with rather a rich crowd and failed his exams. And one of our ancestors had a tannery, leather tannery in Paris. That was a de Bruni who ran off with one of Napoleon's officers. And I've seen in the family house the window she jumped out of. So he went to Paris, learned the leather business, and then discovered that the Chilean government were giving out land. And he went to Chile.
When was this?
This was the turn of the century.
Gotcha, yes.
And he married an English girl. And the scandal in the family was that she was only half English, she was half local Indian, which were quite rare breed down there, the Fuegan Indians. So Granny was half Indian and half, which is why I've got very dark complexion. He wanted his 3 sons to come to England, and so he sent them to be educated in England. And that's how I'm here. Swaine Adeney is an English leather company founded in 1750, very near here, just in Piccadilly, to make riding whips. And they were granted the first royal warrant by George III as whipmakers to the king, which we have been for every monarch since, including the one who abdicated with Mrs. Simpson.
Now, whipmakers, what is this, kinky stuff or for the horses?
It's for horses, yes. Some of my friends from San Francisco think it's an interesting business to be. I'm actually whipmaker to the Queen by royal appointment.
So you're the royal whip?
I'm the royal, yes. And if she needs a whip, we make them with great pleasure.
I'm glad you put it that way.
Yeah, and they're made, interesting enough, the royal whips are made out of kangaroo, which is a nice Commonwealth leather. It's the best leather for plaiting, folds down.
Why?
It's soft leather. It's a tough but a soft leather. Thomas Brigg and Sons were umbrella makers, founded in 1836. And during World War II, they both found their young craftsmen called up to the war. Thomas Brigg had a wonderful Paris showroom in Avenue l'Opéra, so they joined forces.
How did you manage to get here?
I was a customer. Savage thing the English do is send their children away at the age of 7. And we had to get an umbrella and a leather box for my collars, and I walked into Swaine Adeney as a 13-year-old then, and I've been a customer ever since. I got lucky. I was the first person in England to do polymerase chain reaction, make equipment for that. And it really took off. And it was a great deal more luck than judgment. And when you have a hit product, like having a hit record, it just went. So we sold it, and I thought, now I can do something, for myself that would enjoy. I made an offer, which was accepted. We make all the umbrellas for Hermes, and I hate making for other people, but because they are such demanding taskmasters, I go on doing it, and there's no money in it. But they have forced us to keep up to date with the latest metal plating and the latest technologies. We also make I'm a car nut rather than a horse nut, and I make all the luggage for Rolls-Royce, for Bentley and for Aston Martin, particularly Aston Martin. And we work for all the brands, from Burberry's, Dunhill. When I looked at the business, they tried to do too much, and I concentrated back on making with our own materials and a little twist. The clothing we made was all working clothing for real riders and real shooters, but the actual market, what the market wanted, was those designs and shapes, but lighter and more modern materials. we'd never had a royal appointment to Prince Charles for leather goods before. We'd always been umbrella makers to the Prince of Wales. And we started encouraging him to bring us old designs that he had in the office, and we repaired them. And we repaired some amazing things from, particularly the 1920s was a great moment of, you remember all those picnic cases, wonderful
Yes.
things, and writing cases. And of course we drew each one that came in. So we're looking now at, again, making them lighter because people don't have chauffeurs to carry things around. If you look at an English motor car, you've got a Rolls-Royce, the inside, it's all the walnut, is saying we're still trying to do what we used to. We can't do it as well as we used to because we can't afford the time, but we're still making it. If you look at a Cadillac, it's saying one day man will go to Mars, and it's looking forward. I'm trying to distill that nostalgia, which is important, and we should be nostalgic. But you've got to keep up to date, and you've got to be able to say, well, now we don't make whips for horses, but we make luggage for Aston Martins. We don't make cases to go on ocean liners anymore. We make laptop cases, and understand what an IBM, do a drop test on it, and so keep up to date. And the people who find their way here, it's an obstacle course. It's a self-selecting course, and it's, of course, like a club. Their fathers introduced them, but they are looking for a modern way of living in today, but plugged into the past. I went through the English public school system slightly as an outsider, and it's given me the ability to look and to pick up on design trends. Most of the great designers are slightly marginal where they are and where they want to be, and it gives them a sixth sense of an understanding of what's going on. If you're too integrated, you're too relaxed.
What is art?
It's the fixed creativity of the creative instinct in man, isn't it? From cave paintings onwards. And it's also immortality. It's trying to put your stamp on things, which comes back to the idea of the brand. I mean, it's not high art, but it's furniture. I mean, our leather goods is as much art as Hepplewhite furniture. If you see a well-dressed Englishman, he's an Italian, but always, because the English don't look after themselves very well. And we have this whole shabby genteel thing,
what's all that about?
Very difficult. I took the ex-chairman of Bloomingdale's, Marvin Trout, wonderful guy, to my club, and he said, "John, why don't they mend that sofa? It had a great gash in the leather." And I said, "Well, Palmerston probably sat on it." He said, "The whole place needs doing up." And he said, "John, your store is dirty, it's dusty." He kept running his finger over things. "It's dusty." This is because of the class system. And someone said to me, "Oh, he's the kind of man who has to buy his furniture." In other words, he didn't inherit it. So therefore...
My God, there's a put-down in
It's
there?
tremendous put-down. Tremendous. Your cuffs should be slightly frayed.
Yes.
And for an English gentleman, you mustn't try too hard. And it's the cult of the amateur. And you mustn't turn up for the shoot in your absolutely brand new jacket. It must be worn out. And in fact, if you've got our cupboard coats where they have seams, those seams were so that you would give the coat to your groom to wear in for you. So when you got it, it was nicely worn. And if his arms were longer than yours, you could just chop it off. But a heavy tweed coat was always worn in by your staff before you would wear it. So we're deeply imbued with this idea that it should be, and nothing should match. If you go into an English drawing room and the patterns match, that's a big mistake, big social blunder.
Oh.
And again, I'm coming across now as an observer, you see. I understand by observation of these English
but why?
things.
Why do you have to be so goofy?
You'd also quite like to be insulted if you come to this store.
What?
We love...
I can see why you love this job.
But we love. Look, and we'll do anything for if a customer asks nicely. I will get in my car and drive it to his hotel in the afternoon or whatever. Nothing. If the customer is difficult, I mean, we had a man the other day, very, very, very senior, in the government, banged on the door at 6:02. And if you have an electronic cash register, we call it tills, nothing you can do. So my wife was up there and she said, I'm sorry, but we're closed. And he said, you could lose your royal warrant for this, for not serving me. And do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And one of our staff was going out, and as he went out, she said, Robert, could you assist this gentleman? He seems to have forgotten who he is. Now that is fairly typical Swaine Adeney treatment of people who are pushy and difficult. So it's like being a club here. And if you're an old customer here, you use the telephone, you use the lavatory, this is your base in London, and that's the relationship we have with Swaine Adeney customers. They love it, and we pull their leg and they pull ours.